Hello and welcome to Black Economics TV. We have with us today Toyin Oyewole. Welcome to Black Economics, Toyin. It's good to see that you're taking time out to spread the word about what you want to do in terms of helping the Black communities to improve economically. Now, obviously, with our name, Black Economics, this is something we're very keen on. So if you have a great plan, we should let the world know. And whoever wants to follow that plan, they can either contact you or they can run with it, because you're not being cagey about the information. You actually want to share it and you want people to go out and do good with it. So thank you, Toyin, for what you've created. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background, please.
First of all, thank you for having me here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Like you said, my name is Toyin Oyewole. I'm a Nigerian. I was born in Kaduna, in the northern part of the country. Did all of my schooling in Nigeria here. I would consider myself a kind and thoughtful person. And in a lot of my interactions with people, whether on social media or individually, I'm always looking out for what good I can do, what value I can add to people. That might sound boring on social media, because most of my social media postings, whether on WhatsApp or LinkedIn or Twitter, it's about what solutions can we provide instead of complaining. In Nigeria, for instance, things are not going as well as we would like them to, and a lot of the interaction you find out there is criticizing the government, complaining about what is happening. And I always remind them that, look, if we expend half of the energy that we expend on complaining on professing solutions, we'll probably be out of the problems we're encountering presently as a country. And even globally, ideas are out there. Let us concentrate on those solutions. Let's concentrate on working out ideas, sharing those ideas, and whether it's a sustainable development goal or whatever problems we're facing, climate change and the rest of it, if we would expend energy on looking for solutions, we'll get out of all of them quicker than we presently are. Presently, I'm an economic development strategist. By that, I mean I'm advising organizations, communities, and governments on what strategies to employ, what projects to engage to help drive economic development. That's, in my view, especially the work I'm presently doing on communities driving self-help projects. A lot of governments in sub-Saharan Africa, they are financially constrained. They are not able to deliver on the economic development aspiration of their population. And these communities, if they are serious about developing, would have to embark on self-help projects. And these self-help projects, they are usually not as expensive as those government-driven projects. And they instill confidence in those communities that, look, we can do something about our situation and get going and see transformation take place in their community. And the project we're talking about today, which is the Entrepreneurship Promotion and Job Creation Project, is something along that line. That, look, yes, government is there to facilitate economic development, but there's so much that we can do, people, actors outside of government can do to drive these processes also. Thank you very much.
Yes, okay, really good. And this is how I came across Toyin. There was someone complaining about history and slavery and look how terrible Black people were treated in the past. And you came on board and said, well, we have solutions for this now. We should be looking at solutions and not looking back in the past. And of course, there are one or two people whose head are stuck in the past. So they were, criticizing, no, we can never forget our past. We can never forget our history. Well, it's not that we want to forget our history. It's just that there are solutions, there are pathways for improving the lives of many people, which is really what we should be aiming for, expending our energy on. And you're quite right. If people are going to spend so much energy criticizing and causing problems rather than building a solution, we're forever going to be going around in circles. So thank you for standing up, being the lone voice, saying, look, there are solutions. And then that's when we started talking. And you sent me some documents with some very interesting solutions, and I wanted to share that with the world. So if we can go back to what your solutions are, and you seem to have it in 4 points. So I want to look at the 4 points, which has the main parts that stood out for me for each of those documents. And I will just read what it says with it on the screen, and then you can expand a bit more in 4. So let me share the screen now. So here are your 4 points. Number 1, a local government authority's capacity building and empowerment project that seeks to help build the capacity of local government councils in developing countries. So, capacity building and empowerment projects. That was your first part. Tell us a little bit more about that.
First of all, the local government councils all over the world, they are the tier of government that are closest to the people. You have the federal government, the state government, and the local government. The local governments are the closest tier of government to the people, and they are the tier of government that impacts their life most intimately. And when you're talking about the Sustainable Development Goal, they are responsible for over 65% of the activities that drive the Sustainable Development Goal. So if you're talking about no way you can accomplish that, really empowering the local government councils. Right now, the world is lacking behind on several of the Sustainable Development Goals. We have just 6 years to 2030, the terminal date for the conclusion of the Sustainable Development Goal. And we're still so far behind. All indices indicate we're so far behind. And if we're going to ramp up progress on that, given that the local government councils are responsible for the majority of the deliverables, we should be looking to empower them, seriously empower them. So that essentially is what that is about. And we're saying, look, one of the ways you can empower the local government councils is pair local government councils in developing countries. So we're saying, okay, in Nigeria, you pair the local government councils in Nigeria with the counterparts in America, for instance. And given that local government councils around the world perform basically about the same function, we believe that there's so much they can learn from each other.
Yes.
The local government councils in America, they've benefited so much from research that has been conducted on international best practices on running local governments. They've been there for hundreds of years. Meanwhile, the Nigerian ones just have a few years of experience. They do research, they engage consultants, they have conferences where they are building up capacity. The Bloomberg City Center for Cities, for instance, in Harvard University, runs a program where it tries to empower and build up the capacities of local government councils in America. So there are programs like that that are developing the capacities of local government councils in the developed world. But when you come into the developed world, the developing countries, the local government councils are a sorry sight. I mean, some of them still use manual systems. Some of them, you can imagine a local government council where you're still keeping manual records. What type of service delivery do you want to offer when you have not automated your services? When you don't have best-in-class organizational structures, your staff are not exposed to training. You want to go to some of those local government councils and you just tell yourself that there's no way this council can deliver on the Sustainable Development Goal except something drastic is done. And one of the cheap way of doing that for me is capacity building. Pair them with a local government council in the developed world and see what experiences they can share, what knowledge they can share, what capabilities they can share, and see what they can do to improve. That is just one aspect of that project. The other aspect of it is that, look, for most local government councils, diaspora, Nigerians are all over the world. You have Nigerians doing beautifully well in England, in Germany, in Australia, in America, in Canada. If you can tie in these people to give back to their local government, like, look, what can you contribute? You're an engineer. Can you help us with consultancy? You're an architect. Can you help us design this? You are a manager. Can you help us look at the organizational structure? You're a consultant. I mean, there's so much that the diaspora population of each of those local governments can contribute to their local government councils. And we say that, look, the local government council is the tier of government that you are most closely associated with, or most closely, would I say, you have this tie to or affiliation with. If your country is doing something, yes, you are associated with your country, but even more with your state, but even most with your local government council. So the diaspora population can be empowered to do that. And there are other aspects of that project, but essentially that is what it's about. That, look, if we're going to drive inclusive development, if we're going to drive the sustainable development goals in developing countries, we need how we can build their capacity. And this project offers a very, very affordable way of doing it. I am somebody who, I'm an accountant by background, and my accounting training tells me, look, try and save cost. And I feel this is a very low budget project that can help the world accomplish that goal of building capacity in local government councils in developing countries around the world.
Okay, I hear you. Okay, fantastic.
Let me chip in something there that has been running through my mind. I mean, I just tell myself, look, if you take the population of which country now? Let's say you take the population of Ghana, for instance, and replace it with the population of Spain or Netherlands. You take all of the people of Ghana out of Ghana and replace them with people from Netherlands. And just imagine how many years do you think it would take them to turn around Ghana? That by the time you come back, you not recognize Ghana. I believe that within a 10-year period, you would come back to Ghana and you won't recognize Ghana. So the issue of underdevelopment in Ghana is not so much about the place, Ghana, but the people. And when I say the people, I'm not saying the people are bad. You just need capacity. I attended a training in Harvard University earlier in the year, and it talks about capacity building. That, look, development is all about capacity, acquiring the knowledge, the know-how to drive things. With the know-how, you can come into a place that is forest and desert and turn it into a blooming oasis of agriculture. Like Israel, for instance, in the Middle East. Israel is exporting food in a desert, and that is because of the know-how they have. So it's not that, oh, this place is desert, nothing can happen here. If you have the know-how, you can make things happen there.
Yeah.
So the same way, capacity building is bringing that know-how to the developing countries without necessarily exporting all of the population and replacing with colonizers. You're just developing that capacity to make things happen, the capacity to make a change.
Okay. But I would say a number of Africans do go to the West to get training. So they could come back, even if it's temporarily, and you did rightly say diaspora could come back and teach the people who remain about how to empower themselves, about how to do certain tasks, grow certain businesses, how to manage an organization.
Yes, that is taking place. That is taking place. But you see, if you really want to make impact, you need to coordinate it. It's not just haphazard. Oh, some doctors come in and run a clinic. An engineer is mentoring. When you coordinate, you achieve better results. When you direct, you're directing it towards an objective. You gain more mileage that way than just people do it. I mean, they send money. You're talking of in some countries, overseas remittance is like 20% of the GDP of certain countries. So that is massive. But if you're just doing it without coordination, it doesn't bring about transformation. But if you can begin to coordinate that look, this is where we want this remittance to go to. You're sending money for consumption. Can you send some money for investment? So it's not just about, oh, okay, I'm sending money to pay school fees of my siblings back home. Can I add some extra to improve facilities in those schools? If you're sending money for medical treatment and the hospital is dysfunctional, the X-ray is not working, there's no electricity, you don't accomplish much. So instead of just sending money for treatment, if you could send a little extra to have a generator there so you have electricity, or to get an incubator there so women can deliver, or the premature babies can be taken care of, you have X-ray machine, you have whatever. So that is what we're talking about. It has to be coordinated, not just the sporadic one thing that is happening presently.
Okay, understood. Wonderful. All right, so I'm going to share the screen again for the next part. All right, so moving on to the second part, you are saying there should be an African Martian plan project that seeks to promote closer ties between African countries and the African American community in the US, and to raise funding for them for strategies, infrastructural and industrial projects across the continent. Okay, so tell me more about that. What are you saying there?
Okay, there we're saying that, look, Africa needs massive investment to actualize its potentials, industrial potentials, green energy potentials. Take in the world presently, Africa, when you're talking about green energy, clean energy, Africa has the highest potential in the world, solar energy and a lot more. And for these things to happen, you need massive investment. Unfortunately, most African countries do not have that type of investment. Their capital markets are unable to raise that type of investment. So what you find a lot of times is African countries going cap in hand, begging for funds from Europe, from America, from the Asians, from the Arabs, and the rest of it. And we're saying, look, there's something we can do for ourselves as people of African descent. And at about the time I was working on this, I think the GDP of the African American community was about $600 billion. The GDP
it's much bigger now. It's probably about 1.5 trillion now.
Okay. So, and I just said, look, if you can even get 1% of that, if you can get 1% of that to be invested in Africa, it could make a whole lot of difference. And you can get the African American population to invest 1% of their income, just 1% of their income annually in Africa. And when I'm saying invest in Africa, I'm not saying charity donations. I'm saying invest in strategic industrial projects, invest in strategic infrastructural projects that you get returns that a lot of times are much higher than you would get in America, in the American capital market or in the American financial market. So this will be like Africans coming together, branding together to help themselves. And one of the places where I drew inspiration from is Israel. The nation of Israel will not be where it is today if it were not for the American Israelis, the Jews, American Jews. If it were not for their support, Israel will not be where it is today. And I'm saying the Africans can do something similar. And like I keep emphasizing, it's not about throwing money to Africa. It's about investing in Africa. You're investing, and the returns you make in Africa are higher than you make anywhere else in the world. So it's investment that will benefit both Africa and the African American community. So, and what are we talking about? Invest 1% of your income. If you're saying right now the GDP is about 1.5 trillion, if you're talking about 1% of that, you're talking about how much would that come to annually in Africa? Even if it's 15 billion every year that comes into Africa, from the African American community, it can transform things a lot in Africa. Take cocoa, for instance. Africa has been producing cocoa for all of these years, but up until now, we export raw cocoa. And when you export raw cocoa, at the end of the day, you're just, for each dollar that the final consumer expends on cocoa, on chocolates that is made from cocoa, only 10 cents goes to the farmer, the producer, goes to Africa. The 90 cents, that's 90% of it, is value that is captured outside of Africa.
Wow.
So, it doesn't make sense. Why can't we come together and say, look, we would add value, even if it's add value up until 50%.
Yeah.
That would transform things a lot. The Arabs, for instance, the Arabs, yes, they sell crude oil, but they have investment in the entire value chain of the crude oil. They have investment in refineries. They have investment in petrol outlets. They have investment in petrochemical plants in America, in Europe, and everywhere.
Yeah.
So they are not just exporting crude oil. They are getting money all through the value chain. But in Africa, you export cocoa, you export crude oil, you export iron ore, you export raw copper, you export, everything is just raw.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, maximum you're getting is maybe 20% of the final value, because you are just limiting yourself to exportation of raw materials. So we're saying, look, African Americans, be part of this transformation. We want to do it. We don't have the money. And the West, yes, they have tried, but they are reluctant to invest in value added here. So African Americans, I believe they are our most strategic development partners. They can come with just 1% of their GDP annually and say, okay, this year we're doing this. This year we're doing this here, we're doing this here. And with those strategic investments, you can begin to transform things in Africa. And it's not just about investing in Africa. When you begin to take that type of position, you can now even begin to demand change in Africa. That, look, we hear there's corruption in Africa. If we're going to invest in your country, you have to do something to clean up corruption. And then you can begin to influence change. But right now, there's no engagement, there's no influence. They don't exert any pressure. It's like everybody faces his own business. But we can come together. And you see, when Africa develops, it will impact their own image out there. Nobody will call Africa shithole country. Nobody will tell you, go back to your shithole country. But when Africa is underdeveloped, then people can say those type of things. People don't say those type of things to Japanese. There's a limit. They say those type of things to Chinese or Indians. But they continue to say those type of things to Africans because of the state of Africa. But when this type of engagement takes place, you're not just investing, you are influencing change in Africa. Because of your investment, you can say, look, Mr. President, you have been president in this country for 30 years. We think that is not good enough. There are younger people that can do it. You can hand over. You can begin to exert certain pressure. A lot of contracts in Nigeria and around Africa go to Asian constructing companies, go to European construction companies. Why can't they go to Black American construction companies? But that will only happen when this type of engagement takes place.
Yeah.
There's so much benefit we can add to each other. And I believe we need to explore that. So that is what that is about.
Well, I think you came up with a very good point about the cocoa industry. And maybe what needs to happen, which could come from your leadership, is that there is a menu of different options that people can invest in. Show them what the state of play is now, show it how it could be if it went from 10% benefit to the country to say 50%, to show what the difference it would make, not just to the country, but also to the investor. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's maybe something that needs to be done. Because what you're saying is brilliant, but it also needs, as you rightly say, a coordinator or a series of coordinators or a series of leaders to say, yeah, let's jump on this. Let's put some options out there and let's see if we can even find 10 millionaire African Americans or white Americans, whoever, money is money, who can invest in this because it would help the country, but it would also benefit their bottom line. Yeah.
Take cashew in Nigeria and in a lot of West African countries.
Yeah.
Cashew is grown in West Africa. It is taken to China. It is taken to Taiwan. It is taken to Vietnam. It's taken to India for processing. And then from Vietnam, it goes to America. And again, what the producer in West Africa gets, it's a tiny amount of what the final consumer in America pays for it. So why does it have to go to India and Vietnam before going to America?
Yeah.
Some African Americans can say, look, let us set up factory in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Ivory Coast, and process the cashew for the American consumer. It's not going through a third country before going to America. From Africa, value is added and it goes to America.
But it also makes me think that why aren't governments doing this? I mean, governments who have access to millions and billions and they're borrowing money left, right, and center, what are they borrowing the money for? Shouldn't they be doing things like that? Because if they don't, then yes, private sector is going to have to come in and do it. But then, why aren't governments doing this?
Again, maybe a lack of vision. But again, for some of these things, you're talking about brand recognition, brand names. If I decide, okay, I want to start processing cashew, I would need to have to break all of the perception of, look, something from Africa is not standard. But if an American investor, you can convince a Walmart, for instance, to come and set up factory in Nigeria. I mean, Walmart will not have to go through all of those market penetration obstacles that a startup from Nigeria, for instance, would have to go through, or even the Nigerian government will have to go through. If you can get in a joint venture between an American company and a local company, then that makes market entry much, much easier.
Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so now on to the third one.
Okay, this is the one that got our discussion started.
An entrepreneurship promotion and job creation project that seeks to create and make available on the internet a global repository of information on small, medium, and micro enterprises, along with tips on their key success factor and information on government agencies that budding entrepreneurs can approach in their country for financial and other support. Lovely.
Okay, so here, I mean, like I said, this is what got us started. There was a video posted on LinkedIn showing African youths trying to navigate the Sahara Desert on their way to Europe. And it's so pathetic. These are able-bodied young men that have, would I say, frustrated in their country and have resorted to these life-threatening journeys on their way to Europe with the hope of making a living and making life better for themselves. And this is something that is, like I said, pathetic. It goes on all the time. Even as we're talking, I'm sure if you go to the Sahara Desert, you find people there trying to make those journeys. And the journey is not just crossing the Sahara Desert. A lot of them die in the crossing. And then there's the crossing of the Mediterranean Sea that separates Africa from Europe. So that is another place where a good number of them lose their lives. You see stories of that all the time. And it's so sad that we're subjecting our youths to this type, that frustration in our various countries have driven our youths to such measures in order to make life better for themselves. On several fronts, it is sad and heartbreaking. For the families, for instance, you have sent your child to school. For some families, expended huge monies, some even going into debts to send their children to school. and this child graduates year after year, they're sitting at home, no job. And for some of those families, their hope was that, look, once this child is done with schooling, they would begin to earn an income and be able to help the family get along. And then you can imagine how that family feels if after that expenditure, nothing comes out of it. For the child himself, the youth involved, I mean, especially for the men, I mean, you can't think of marriage, you can't think of a family, you can't think of a future when you don't have a job.
Yeah.
So this unemployment thing has a lot of ramification. And those are some of the things that drive these young people to these extremes. And we're saying, look, there's a solution to it. And the solution we're professing is the Entrepreneurship Promotion and Job Creation Project. And what that seeks to do is, look, in your the subtitle of that project is that every street is lined with gold. Every street is lined with gold. And that says that, look, in your very surrounding, there are opportunities there. A lot of them are not very obvious, but they are there. And what this project seeks to do is, I mean, open your eyes to the opportunities that are around your surrounding.
Yeah.
And the way it wants to go about that is to give information about all of the small, medium, and micro enterprises that exist in the world. That is a difficult undertaking to embark on, but that is what will accomplish the purpose. When you know about all of the possibilities, then your eyes are open to opportunities around you. In the document, we noted that bamboo, for instance, the bamboo plant has more than 100 applications, things you can do or you can make out of the bamboo plant. And there's hardly any location in the world where all of those applications are being used. So if you have bamboo in your locality, and for some people, they just see it as, okay, for construction, you use it for construction purposes. But by the time you go to the website and you see that this bamboo, you can make this, and that, 100 things. Those are opportunities of gainful employment for somebody. And the list goes on and on like that. You are in a fish farm or you are in a fishing community. You have exhausted the fish in the river or in the sea where you fish from, and it looks like the future is bleak. But if you are aware that there's something called aquaculture, there's something called fish farming, then that opens up a new possibility for you. And I mean, it just goes on and on like that. You are in an urban center, and there's a refuse dump, large refuse dump that is a nuisance to everybody. But in some communities around the world, those refuse dumps are thriving business sites where they're recycling so many things, doing so many things. So if you can open the eyes of somebody who is living next to a refuse dump, that look, okay, maybe you are recycling bottles, but then you can recycle computers, you can recycle this, you can. So, I mean, it becomes a beehive of opportunity, not a nuisance anymore. So what the project is trying to do is, look, just open the eyes of people to possibilities around you. You don't need to you don't need to move from the village to the capital city. You don't need to move from Africa to Europe. Around you, there are opportunities. So, like I said, it involves getting information on all of the small and medium scale enterprises around the world, putting it on the website, and it will be an entrepreneur or somebody who's job seeking and is tired of job seeking, goes there and says, look, what type of business can I do? And in wherever you are, you find something. So that essentially is what that is about. And you see, this unemployment thing, I mean, in Africa is scary. You're talking about 30% youth unemployment. In some places, 50% youth unemployment. And you see, if you don't do something about this, it is like they say the youth population in Africa, it can be a time bomb or it can be a demographic dividend. It depends on how you handle it.
Yes.
If you don't handle it well, it can be a time bomb that can bring everything down. Because, I mean, if you push the youth, I mean, somebody has graduated 5-10 years, no job, he doesn't have any stake in the system working. I mean, you are toying with political unrest, you are toying with civil disobedience, you are toying with social breakdown. in social order.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the people that are involved in all this banditry and terrorists and all of these other organizations, extremist organizations, they recruit from unemployed youths. So it is in our interest to find solutions to this. And not just African countries, even European countries, in their enlightened self-interest. Instead of spending money on expensive border patrol and building fences like they're doing in America, I mean, this doesn't cost so much. By the time you invest in this, you are helping African youth stay in their country and not bother you in your country.
It's true.
Donald Trump is complaining about, oh, the Mexicans, they are coming there. Just spend money on this. This doesn't cost so much. And you would create opportunities for them there that they will not need to come and bother you in your own country. So it's a win-win for everybody. Win-win for African countries, win for the Europeans or the Americans. Because once you address this issue, all the illegal immigration that we're talking about, the deaths on the Mediterranean, deaths in the Sahara Desert, expensive border control and all of that, you will not need to be expending money on that anymore. So that's our take on that.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. An education for all project that seeks to provide free access to quality education for children living in disadvantaged communities across the continent. Please expound on that, please.
Okay. Around the world, there's a shortage of teachers. And in some communities, I mean, there are no teachers at all. Around the world now, I think there are about over 200 million children that are out of school.
Really?
And a lot of this boils down to the fact that there are no schools, there are no teachers, and certain other factors. And we're saying, look, one of the ways you can get around this, especially in disadvantaged communities, when we say disadvantaged communities, we're talking about remote rural communities, we're talking about nomadic communities, we're talking about conflict affected or disaster affected communities, where you have conflicts, people migrate, they leave their own place and they are in refugee camps, and a good number of the refugee camps don't have facilities for education for their children. There are some remote communities that are so cut off that they don't even have teachers. Some of them have teachers, and you have one teacher for the whole school. So the teacher is the one that is taking kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, all of them.
Wow, we
together.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a global shortage of trained teachers, qualified teachers. And even in some schools that have teachers, you find somebody who studied mathematics, is teaching physics, is teaching chemistry, and all sorts like that. So what this seeks to do is to transmit educational content to these communities. And how that works is, take in Niger State, for instance, in Nigeria, or Kano State, where you have a lot of out-of-school children, you identify a top quality school in the state or in the region, might not be, and you set up cameras there to capture classroom activities in that school, and you transmit it over the state or the region, and schools at the receiving end would have large screen televisions. They will have solar powered setup so that they can air the classroom activity from that model school to children in the remote community. So the children can tag along. It's almost as if you're doing online learning. And what you just need on the other side, I mean, you go to a village that does not have any teacher at all, or has a teacher that is supposed to handle class 1 to 6 primary school or even secondary school. All they need to do is, okay, let us demarcate this place for the school. Build, if they're not wealthy enough, they can just build sheds that will keep out the rain from the television and the other equipment, and have the children sit there protected from the sun and the elements, no rain and the rest of it, and you have an adult, doesn't even have to be a literate adult, just to keep order. Don't make noise, that's all. And have them sit there and listen to classroom activity there. They are provided with low-cost textbooks and writing materials, and they can follow the class activity there. So that will help bring top quality education to those locations. And it's not just about the children. We're looking at after school hours, adults that do adult literacy or second chance learning opportunities for adults. So after the children go in the morning, afternoon, the school is empty or the facility is empty, you can have adults come in for adult literacy class. You can use it as a community learning center. It's not just about literacy. We're talking about farming. What is the latest farming tools? Oh, there's COVID in town. How do you prevent COVID? There's climate change. What do you need to mitigate against climate change? How do you recover from climate change? Regenerative agriculture, different things that can be taught there. Financial literacy, entrepreneurship. I mean, it's just endless that can be done there. Aside from the children coming there in the morning, the adults can benefit from it in the evenings. So that's what that is about.
Yeah, I really like that. Some really interesting pathways that you've given there. All of those combined together could really make a difference. Now, how are you getting this information out? Have you sent it, say, to governments, organizations, NGOs, companies? Is there anybody that you're working with to actually get this done? Because I mean, it can be done in parallel all over the place, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Like you said, I've shared it with NGOs. I've shared it with governments, UN agencies. The response can be better. That's just what I'll say. I've shared it. A lot of times they say, "Oh, nice idea, good idea," but I would like it to go past just a good idea.
Absolutely.
It's not just enough to say, "Oh, this is a fantastic idea. Oh, this is a brilliant idea." I thank them for that, but I would like it to go on into implementation.
Well, absolutely. You know, there was a video that I came across on LinkedIn very recently, and I wanted you to look at it. But I'm going to do that I'm going to send it to you shortly. So we'll probably have a break on this and then come back for about 10 minutes to talk about that video. Because I think it sums up what is happening with money that is going into Africa and the fact that it's not being used for certain projects like this. But I'm thinking positively, there must be some of this happening already, whether it's with NGOs, whether it's some government departments, whether it's with there must be some of this happening already. This is what I'm trying to think optimistically. Am I wrong?
No. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of any of this happening. I'm not aware of any of this happening. I'm not aware of it.
We need to do some research on that. Yeah?
I'm not aware.
Yeah, we need to do some research on that because you've given 4 different facets, and in some ways, I do think some of this must be happening somewhere because, you know, we're not coming from a situation where we're saying, "Oh, let's go land on Mars, let's do something." You know, some of these are they're kind of common sense plans, common sense ideas, and there must be some of it happening already, because if there is, then that can be used as the role model or the example that they can therefore work with other communities to do the same thing because it started already. There are probably tweaks, you know, other things that you've suggested that they could improve on. But I think we really need to look into this very, very seriously.
Yeah, I
What's your thoughts?
so. I believe so. I believe so. I mean, like I said, if you look at my Twitter page, I mean, there are likes and retweets of this project all the time, but so far it's just been likes and retweets from reputable individuals in the international development community, from leading organizations in those areas, whether in education, whether in immigration, whether in job creation, and all of that. But it's just been likes and retweets. So I'm looking, look, how do we move this from just likes and retweets to actual projects?
Well, that's the thing. I wonder if maybe some people have decided that, oh, this looks good, and have taken it and run with it, but have not told you.
No, I'm not aware of that either. I'm not aware of that either.
And having said that, you're actually not holding this to your heart and say, oh, only I can do this. This is not a copyrighted situation. This is where you are doing this for the greater good of man and woman, you know, and whoever else. And you're basically saying this could help so many people. So if someone was to take your idea and run with it, you'd actually be very happy to hear about it. So we need to continue to have this conversation. And I don't want to be one of those people who does likes and retweets and then disappears. I want to be one of those people who help to make this happen. Okay?
That would be very much appreciated. Very much.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have this site called Black Economics. We've been going for 19 years now, blackeconomics.co.uk. And we feature trailblazers, we feature Black-owned businesses, we feature people who are doing great things. We will certainly feature this on our site, but perhaps in a way, some of what you have mentioned mirrors with me because it's part of what we've been doing. So for instance, we've been drawing up a list of business owners, small businesses. We've been drawing up a list of business intelligence, in other words, how to make a business successful. And part of what we do with Black Economics TV is we get in some of those business owners to share about how they started, how they became successful, how they're doing what they're doing. So, you know, that's one of the areas where I can see that we have some synergy, certainly. And there are other plans that we have in place that we can look and see how that marries with you and how we can get the word out to actually get these things happening. So this chat will not stop here, as in that's it. We put it on YouTube and go about our merry way. We will keep coming back to it, and I think we should probably revisit it maybe every 3 months or so to see if progress has been made, to actually see how we're pushing things forward. And anybody who wants to come on board to assist with this development as part of a movement, then please contact either yourself, Toyin, I'll have your contact details at the bottom, or they can contact myself as well. Does that sound fair?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated.
Let's go and make movements happen. Let's go, let's change the world, man.
Yeah.
You know? So thank you for what you're doing. As I said, we will keep in touch.
Okay.
And I can assure you it's not going to stop here. I'm not going to be one of those liking, retweeting, and disappearing. Okay? That's my promise to you.
Thank you.
My promise to the continent and communities around the world.
You'll touch lives. You'll touch millions of lives around the world. Each of those projects will touch millions of lives. Will make a difference in families around the world.
Because to be fair, it's not even a Black-only problem. There are people in the Far East who could benefit from this. There are people, actually white people in certain parts of the West who can actually benefit from it too, you know?
Everybody.
Because all of America is not rich and prospering, I assure you. Me and my family visited Los Angeles a few months ago. And yeah, we came across the homeless, you know, very big area in Los Angeles that people are lost, you know, and they don't show that in the tourism maps, you know, and they're trying to show off about America. They don't show those bits. People who are struggling and who've been struggling all their life. Somebody told me about an area in Britain where there are generations upon generations of people who've never had a job. They're living on the state. Grandparents, parents, children, children's children, you know, and this is in Britain. So we can't assume that everybody's, you know, doing so wonderfully well. And I think your solutions can help a wide range of people. Thank you, Toyin.
Thank you, Dawn. Nice talking to you.
Looking
forward to working together with you and driving the movement, like you said.
Okay, let's make it happen. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much.